It's another week in Galaxy of Heroes, and we have a bunch of news that managed to drop. So, everyone sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and get ready for me to shove this thumb right up your... Hey everybody, Finity from Reality Skewed Gamers here, and welcome to another episode of Good and Bad. Now, if you're not familiar with what Good and Bad is a weekly episodic show where I go through the news and notes from the past week in different games and give you either a thumbs down, or thumbs up on the different things that have happened based on my opinion, as well as giving you an overall rating for the week. Now, I do try to be as objective as possible, but of course, you know, not everything is extremely objective. It'll be slightly subjective based on this noggin. So, let's go ahead and jump into the massive amount of notes that we have this week because it is pretty important. So let's start off first with the new season of Grand Arena. Now, we got told that the season is going to be based around the Night Sisters. We see that there are a bunch of feats here related to Mother Talzin, SWGOH, a lot of the fun stuff that we can remember from Star Wars, but the most important thing to come out of this is that now they have increased the number of ships on defense from 1 to 2. Now, if you heard me on the Wednesday night stream, you may have a little bit of an idea about what I think about this, and my opinion is that I am giving this a thumbs up.
Business is good.
Now, you might be asking yourself, I heard you, Finn, on the Wednesday night stream. You were not happy with this. Why are you giving this a thumbs up? Now, there's a few reasons for it. Now, the main reason is I'm going to go back to a post from January of last year when they talked about territory wars and making it move in a more playful and fun direction. This basically told everyone that had any interest in territory wars that they are going to neglect this game mode. And we have seen this to a large extent. The only update we've gotten with territory wars recently has been the introduction of new tiers to give more rewards, but we have seen massive issues with the matchmaking. There's been no diversity in the amount of teams that are being placed on defense, which has left a lot of this very, very stagnant. And so territory wars has kind of been a forgotten game mode. What I am happy about with Grand Arena is that CG is not just lying back and letting things happen. They are finding ways to evolve it. And I think that 2 fleet is not necessarily a bad idea. My concerns, however, is that Division 2 may not be ready for 2 fleets. There's going to be some that are, some that aren't, but Division 2 is kind of pushing it. For Division 1, I don't think it is a bad idea. My opposition to it, however, was the fact that by doing 2 fleets, we are now using about 60% of the possible ships available in-game in now GAC, when you consider that you need 2 on defense and 2 for attack minimally. When you compare that to where we are currently with characters, we are still using about 40% of our characters, assuming one-shots, in GAC. So they had a much better opportunity to expand the number of teams and characters to test the impact of using 50% of your characters as a test to see how it strained people's rosters, what their thought were, and the characters have a lot more numbers in there. So there's a lot more variety and a lot easier adaptability. If players were able to pick that up, the fleet would have been the next to come. But they jump straight to the fleet. There's a lot of theories about why they're doing this, and it might be because some people are neglecting fleets because you only need the 1 for Fleet Arena. There might be a fleet phase in the new raid that is coming out, hopefully, and that could be a reason why they're trying to emphasize this. There's a lot of theories going on about it. But overall, I am glad that CG is trying to push GAC to a more competitive mode. But they have to follow this up with more characters on defense as well. That doesn't necessarily mean they need new divisions. Divisions by itself is really a separation based on GP to try and give different rewards. They could easily look at your top 80, or if they expand it, your top 90 or 100 GP to determine how many teams you put in a zone, very similar to how TW is based on the number of players that have queued up. So even though there's this division in territory wars based on the number of people that queued up, you get a different number in territory wars. Similarly, while there is a division for GAC, they could easily say if your GP in the top 100 is beyond a certain point, you're now going to be placing 3 or 4 teams on defense rather than 3 or 2 and easily expand that without needing to create new divisions. So I think an expansion in GAC is much needed. I am glad that CG is moving in a direction to help with that. While it wouldn't have been my first choice, I am much happier that GAC is not going to fall to the wayside like Territory Wars, and that is why I gave it a thumbs up. Again, keep in mind, I try to be as objective as possible. I don't want my subjectivity of thinking that Fleet is the wrong decision to cloud the fact that this is an improvement in GAC. That is the way that I think everyone should look at it, regardless of what you think about the actual decision. CG is trying to continue to make this a competitive game mode. And so, again, make sure you guys are getting prepared. You're going to need 4 fleets minimally, 2 for defense, 2 for offense. Figure out how you want to do it. Are you going to cheese one of them and just go with your strongest and hope that your negotiator or your malevolent stays on defense? Lots of potential strategies to come out of this. So it'll be a very interesting GAC season coming up soon. Then we got the update that everyone was waiting for the past 4 weeks, which is what are the last requirements for Galactic, Luke, and Palpatine. Now we have the complete set, which is what we were waiting for since we got the first set. It was basically what is everything that's required so we can piece everything together. And overall, these are very friendly requirements, so I have to give this a thumbs up.
Business is good.
Now, if we look at Luke and we look at what's required for Emperor, I mean, these are all characters that, especially for veteran players, and again, keep in mind, Galactic Legends are designed more for veteran players. These are all characters that players have already. And especially when you consider the fact that some of these are requirements for Jedi Knight Luke, and now they're required for Jedi Master Luke, you're seeing the overlap here, which is making the requirements, while somewhat steep in the number of characters, a little bit easier because of the overlap that you're getting with some of the other requirements. Wedge and Biggs, for a while there, were quite important for the Home 1 team when they were still meta with the MILF. Princess Leia, maybe not quite as important, but still had some uses, especially in 3v3. Lando and Hermit Yoda are, of course, needed for other characters, and so you see the benefit of the Luke. And Emperor, there was a lot of fear that you would see a character like Malik or Gas as a requirement for Emperor simply because of the number of event characters that were needed for Luke, but instead we got Jedi Knight Anakin instead of Gas. We see Tarkin, Veers, Stark, and Thrawn. Thrawn is an event character, but he's one of the earliest event characters that people got because it requires basically Phoenix, and Thrawn has been a staple for most rosters because of the way that Fracture works. So overall, this is a great lineup for players to try and get Luke and Emperor. None of these requirements are crazy. I don't feel like it stretches you quite as much as the Rey and Kylo ones did with a lot of useless characters. These are all fairly useful characters that have some sort of use, and so it's actually pretty nice overall. Mon Mothma is now going to be farmable, so that is a good sign. They fixed some bugs. We're going to talk about the bugs here a little bit, but overall, I have to give this a thumbs up. I gave a thumbs up for the Galactic Legends because that is the key thing. No special one needed for Mon Mothma in this case, though I am happy working on the Rebel Fighters that she is now free to play. And that brings us to the next thing of information that came out, which is probably not going to get any thumbs up or thumbs down. It is the event calendar. Now, when we look at the event calendar, the most important thing here is that Royal Guard is our character of the month. Now, keep in mind, last month was IG-88. I am still with another week left in September, hoping that we get some kind of Mandalorian release. However, there may be no relevance at all. At least we know Royal Guard is a requirement for Emperor. Emperor is going to be released in October, as currently suspected, hoping in probably about 2 weeks that Emperor is going to be out. And Royal Guard is a requirement. Probably not much more to go into than that. Potentially Royal Guard is getting a rework. Potentially they're introducing another Red Guard like Praetorian Guard. I mean, there's a whole bunch of possibilities here, and of course we love to theorycraft here, but neither a thumbs up nor a thumbs down on here. More informative. Royal Guard is going to be your login character of the month, and for a lot of you, he is going to be Shard Shop currency very, very quickly. But there was one thing in particular that I'm going to spoil right now that I think was a bad thing, and it was the Darth Revan bug. So right now, I'm going to tell you offhand that I'm giving this a thumbs down.
This is bad.
Now, the reason for the thumbs down is not because it was a bug. I have been very lenient in most cases to CG for having bugs. I understand when you have some kind of releases that bugs sometimes happen. So the fact that there was a bug, of course, is something that is concerning. However, it is not something that I necessarily give a thumbs down for, because something like this, while it is major, is not like the end of the game. But my problem was the response time for this bug. This was a bug that was effectively putting Deathmark on a bunch of characters in the lead position if you were using Deathmark without really doing what is supposed to happen, which is that they fall below 50%. So what was happening is that a lot of people were using Darth Revan against Galactic Legend Rays or Kylos, and the Deathmark was popping up on the Galactic Legend. It threw off a bunch of arenas. What happened effectively is that they needed time in order to review it. The bug popped up, as you can see, right around 7 p.m. Eastern time, as you can see over there. And on 7/24, they came out with the update right around 6 p.m. So this happened with roughly 24 hours of Darth Revan just being completely crazy, right? And this is something that affected squad arenas, and it affected a bunch of matchups. So because of the response time to this and the ability to fix this, that is why I'm giving this a thumbs down. This wasn't treated as an urgent matter, but it should have been, given the impact of this bug on your matchups in Squad Arena, which for a lot of people is the major source of crystals. Whether Squad Arena or Fleet Arena, you don't want to impact those game modes. So a little bit, and it's not a big thumbs down, because I think a day response is somewhat reasonable if it was a general problem, but this one was a little bit bigger, should have been treated as such. So it's a little bit of a thumbs down here. Nothing extremely major, but something for CG to work on moving forward with their response time and maybe even their communication, letting us know that it was maybe a little bit more complicated than they thought, giving us maybe a little bit more of an update would have been much more preferred than just kind of a almost 24-hour period where it's just, yeah, we know the bug is there, and then later on it's, here's the bug. Here's the release that we're fixing it. So overall, as I go through this week, there's obviously more good than bad, and even the bad is not all that bad. But one of the goods I still have an issue with, because I still don't think Fleet was the correct choice to go with 2 on defense, just simply because of the way that the numbers work out. However, CG is showing that they care about GAC. They're moving it in a good direction. I think the new Galactic Legends, again, while I think that they're maybe a little bit too accelerated and too close to the other Galactic Legend set, I think the requirements were pretty fair overall. And so this week is getting a thumbs up. So CG coming back to a good week here. Hopefully they continue to improve their GAC, continue to show now what we're waiting for, the kits to Luke and Emperor, so we can see exactly how he works. And we're looking forward to this. And right now, CG is kind of moving in a good direction. Still some issues, not perfect, but I like the way CG is moving ahead with this. And let's hope for the best here as we move on to the next week. And on that note, I am Infinity with Reality Skewed Gamers. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And now, normally when I tell you to hit the subscribe and all that, even more important, because next week on Saturday, October 3rd, we are going to have our 12-hour live stream for the American Cancer Society campaign. So make sure that you are there, and I'll see you on Saturday.